Once upon a time in a convenience store, a woman asked, "Which zero-calorie drink will I like more?" The cashier said, "I have a thought. Coke Zero Sugar always hits the spot." The taste made her heart fill with laughter, and with her Coke Zero Sugar, she lived happily ever after. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, unbelievably delicious.
No trip to the store is complete without the unbelievably delicious zero-calorie taste of Coke Zero Sugar. Pick some up at 7-Eleven today.
It is 10 a.m. in the East, 7 a.m. in Las Vegas, and 8 a.m. in Costa Rica, home of sportsbookreview.com. You can see it there on your screen. I can never be a weather person, I guess, for two reasons. Number one, I'm way too damn accurate, much more accurate than those meteorologists are. And number two, I don't know if I'll ever be able to coordinate looking at the screen and realizing I got to do it with the opposite hand, etc. But here we are with incredible information for sports bettors and the fantasy football players alike. So let's get straight to it and help you beat those odds at SBRodds.com. Jacksonville and Indianapolis, although the Jaguars are 3-3 against the spread, they actually have the league-leading 9.7 against the spread margin. And again, for those of you who don't watch this every week, some people call it the sweat barometer, but it does tell us how much a team does or does not cover by. So, the mere spread records can be very deceptive. Maybe a team is 5-1, but they just covered, a couple games by 1 or 2 points, and, their loss was by 8 or whatever. So this kind of measures the accuracy of a spread record. And we could really, like I said, do a entire video on how to really accurately use the spread margin. But here on the Facebook Live with Sportsbook Review and the various videos and podcasts I do, sometimes I like to take that "I'll report, you decide" post. We'll give you a free pick, but we also want to give you information both for your own betting purposes if you handicap on your own, or, some key injury stuff for your fantasy football. Now, amazingly, the Colts are also 3-3, yet they have the worst against the spread margin in the league at minus 7.7. So there you go. The teams are equal as far as spread record, yet Jacksonville has been significantly better against the spread, not necessarily in your back pocket, but as far as they are clearly much more undervalued, while Indianapolis has been overvalued. And in the case of, Jacksonville, I get it. I certainly have said that they have a lot of question marks with Blake Bortles at quarterback, but then again, heck of a supporting cast around him. So the bottom line is, if somehow Blake Bortles can finally rise to the occasion and be one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, they are a legitimate dark horse Super Bowl contender. Now, teams with a minus 15 or worse against the spread margin compared to their opponent, which would obviously apply here, are 265 and 216, as long as they are not road favorites. Now, that would favor Indianapolis here. Again, as I've said, the NFL tends to be a thank you, Demarius. Dave, we're going to discuss all the games, and I do, appreciate your feedback. But we will discuss just about every single game, including the game that you're asking about, the Panthers. But the NFL tends to be a regression to the mean sport. So does the NBA, professional. So this says to essentially go with a team with a much worse against the spread margin, and you and I are going to make a ton of money again in the NBA. By the way, already off to a 4-1 NBA at offshoreinsiders.com. So yeah, we're going to have a big year in the NBA with angles like that. The Colts are also the number 2 over team in the NFL, going over 5-1 by 9.2 points per game. And the Jaguars, Leonard Fournette is very unlikely to play at this point. 130 carries for 596 yards and 6 touchdowns. Well, we did have somebody already ask about the Panthers and the Bears, and that's the game that we are going to discuss right now. The road team is 6-1 straight up in the Panthers games. Road teams with substantially better away winning percentages than their home winning percentage are 38-14 against the spread when getting 2 points or more. Teams averaging 26 or more points per game in their last 4, yet 21 or less for the season, have gone over 46-25, as long as if the total is 40.5 or less. So basically, what that says is that a team that is trending over, even if they are an under team, that they are trending recently over but not for the season, continue to ride that trend is what that angle basically says. Home underdogs of 3 or more off of a win as an underdog versus an opponent off a loss as a favorite, a very solid 30-20 against the spread. The Panthers wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin will play 26 catches for 371 yards, 17-mile-per-hour winds, and the Panthers, their best defensive player, Luke Kuechly, is out because he did not pass the concussion protocol. Hey, do me a favor, folks. For those of you who do like these live videos, please literally like us. Whether you're watching us on Facebook Live, whether you're watching us on demand, maybe you're in the West Coast, you get up a little bit late, or whether you're watching the rebroadcast on YouTube. Don't worry. Those of you who are fans of my videos and podcasts, thank you so much. They're going to continue into perpetuity. I know a lot of you who've been with me as clients, premium clients at offshoreinsiders.com for 5, 6, 7 years. You told me that you found me on YouTube. But as far as specifically the Facebook Live, still making a judgment as far as the time investment. Won't bore you with the details. So if you want us to continue the Facebook Live portion of my multimedia, please like us here on Facebook, or if you're watching us on YouTube, do that. Subscribe to me on Twitter at Offshore Insider because of the limited characters, no S at the end, and give us retweets. But again, podcast and videos are here to stay. The Facebook Live, hopefully, here to stay. And if you love us, please like us. The Bengals and the Steelers. Pittsburgh has gone under all 6 games, but by a fairly, when you consider that they've gone under every game this year, a fairly modest minus 7.1 margin. They've gone under by an average of 7.1 points per game. The Bengals wide receiver John Ross is still out, and that's pretty big. He opens up the field with his speed. The Vikings and the Ravens, the going against winning teams off of a win as a home underdog, 110-57 against the spread. That would favor the Ravens. 59-23 when such teams are underdogs, and 78.1% winners getting 5 or more. Although under those circumstances, 11-21 straight up. And I think I've discussed this before on our Facebook Live, but one of the things that you definitely want to consider, one of the biggest myths, it's a case of inductive reasoning versus deductive. I hear all the time people say, all you got to do is bet on the team that's going to win outright. They're going to cover. Well, of course, again, underdogs, every time they win outright, they cover. A favorite has to win outright to cover. Don't use that stupid inductive reasoning. If you actually think there's an angle there, you're going to wind up betting all favorites. And in the NFL, that's not a good idea. Yeah, I definitely think the Panthers could cover. But check out our premium plays at offshoreinsiders.com. What I'd be worried about for the Panthers, they've clearly been the mark of inconsistency this year. Cam Newton, look, he had off-season shoulder surgery. Again, that's a tongue twister. Don't like to say that. Shoulder surgery. And after a disappointing year last year, coming off of the Super Bowl season, and then he got off to a disappointing start, you're wondering, is Cam Newton no longer one of the elite quarterbacks? And as soon as people started asking that question, he's obviously played spectacularly. But they haven't been the mark of consistency. And Chicago, as I said, I still think they have, an upside since making the quarterback change. So they're kind of a dangerous dog, especially at home. But if you're asking me to, make a pick there, the Panthers do seem to be trending upward, and maybe some of the struggles for Newton were the fact that he wasn't as healthy as he now is. Going against home teams off of a win as an underdog versus an opponent off a loss as a favorite, actually 57-45. That would favor the Vikings. Talk about another quarterback. Look, Joe Flacco has struggled mightily this year. He's been awful, in fact. He's been absolutely awful. Trevor's asking a two-team, the Titans and the Steelers. First of all, don't bet parlays. Parlays are not a good idea. The only time I would recommend parlays is if you're picking money line games, which you can do in the NFL, of course, much more common in baseball, and they're very large favorites. That's the only time I do recommend parlays. But yeah, we are going to discuss those other games. So I very much appreciate the comments and the questions, but keep in mind that we do discuss virtually every single game here. But Flacco continues to struggle, a mere 5.42 passing yards per attempt, 8 interceptions and 4 touchdowns. But as we've said before, you know why Joe Flacco is still a starting quarterback in the NFL? Because as soon as he's counted out is when he winds up playing his best. Joe Flacco is just one of these guys. He needs to be hit in the mouth for him to respond. So just when you count out Joe Flacco, he is one of these guys that comes back with a very solid effort. This might be a pretty good overplay, by the way. The Vikings, Jerick McKinnon, a little bit better running back than a lot of people realize. Of course, with Dalvin Cook out for the year, he was a big play guy. But McKinnon, 245 yards from scrimmage the last 2 games. He's risen to the occasion. And look, he averages 4.2 yards per carry in his career. So he might be one of those under-the-radar guys. And especially the Titans, I was asked about, we'll talk about the Survivor stuff to Jeff DeAngelis. Thanks for the questions, and I'll get to that in a moment. But he's one of these guys, I think if you're a fantasy football player, McKinnon probably been picked up in your league. I don't do fantasy football anymore. Haven't done that in years simply because there's just, the too many conflicting rooting interests basically. But he's an underrated player, as is Alex Collins, averages 6.44 yards per carry. Stephon Diggs is questionable for Minnesota, 20 receptions for 364 yards in his last 3 home games and 4 touchdowns. Teams averaging 26 or more points over the last 4, yet 21 or less for the season have gone under 46 and over 46 and 25. That would favor the Ravens over. So again, teams that have been trending over, even if they're not an overall over team, tend to go over, is what that angle says. Vikings, number 5 under team at minus 6.1, and they've gone under 4-2 for the year. Ravens wide receiver Jeremy Maclin and tight end Ben Watson are probable. Thank you, folks, for the questions and the likes. I'm asked about the Titans and the Cowboys, save for Survivor pools. A couple things as far as the Survivor. Let me give you some advice on that. Never, ever save a team. Don't outsmart yourself. Don't look ahead and say, I'd like to bet them this week, but you know what? I think they're going to be a better bet next week. You'll outsmart yourself. Now, what I will say, and it's somewhat conflicting, don't bet road teams on Survivor, because even if you're betting, say, the Patriots on the road, they're going to be essentially a gift at home. And a lot of those upsets, as I always say, the biggest sucker bet is a road favorite. So I avoid ever betting road teams on Survivor. And again, I actually don't really do Survivor anymore. I'm just worried so much about against the spread stuff. As far as the Survivor, it depends on which teams that you have left. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Do not save a team, with the kind of exception being don't bet road teams. There's just so much danger there. Teaser, Trevor Venable. I think I've told this story before, not here, but one of the ways I got my start in the business, I always say I'm a degenerate handicapper, not a degenerate gambler. I've always loved picking games against the spread. And my first boss in the history of this industry, a guy by the name of Mickey Charles, he owned the Dial Sports score phones, used to be on the radio, WCAU in Philadelphia. And when I was a preteen and early teen, would listen to him on weekends. He would talk, because I had no social life, but I would listen to him on Friday and Saturday nights, especially Saturday nights, and he switched. Then he also came on Fridays, and he would talk. It was an all handicapping show, and this was before he eventually became my boss. As he always said, there is a reason they call them teasers. I don't like teasers any more than I do parlays. As I said, parlays, the exception would be on the money line. Teasers, don't like them. I avoid teasers. There is a very good reason for that. Yeah, Mark Halverson. We used to have a system that's actually been a little bit in a slump. It wins both against the spread and ATS. I used to be tremendous with NFL money lines And the system, I don't have them all memorized, but I think it said to fade teams coming off of wins as a home underdog. Great on the money line, very good against the spread, especially when the team that we were fading was the favorite. Now, in recent years, it's kind of been 50-50. It's made a little bit of a comeback here, but in short, I don't mess around with football money lines as much as I used to. But, as a general rule of thumb, and as I said, we should be sponsored by Gatorade, the marketing people at Sportsbook Review. Get Gatorade to sponsor, and Apple, because I'm always going to tout them. But hold on for 1 second. I don't like to bet money lines, but as a general rule of thumb, I would bet home underdogs on money lines, which are kind of overlaps with what I said about the Survivor stuff. But again, yes, thank you for everybody for those likes. That tells us you still want us to do this portion of our multimedia, the Facebook Live in particular. Saints versus the Packers. Got a free pick on this one. A double-digit swing as a result of Brett Hundley, being the quarterback. And a cute little story. My brother-in-law was over last week. He's big into fantasy football. We were downstairs watching football. He ran upstairs. This just tells you how little sleep I get on Sundays. That's why I want you to like this if you truly like it, because I'll continue to, get up early and do the last-minute preparations for this. But I told him that Brett Favre was out for the year. Obviously meant Aaron Rodgers, but, get very little sleep during the NFL on Sundays. But this is arguably one of the biggest swings I've ever seen. Literally about a 9.5, 10-point swing. Not just because of the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, but Hundley he hasn't really proven much. So it has, it's 90% because of Rodgers, but also another 10% because of the big drop-off. But another angle, as I said, that's great in every single sport, probably best in the NBA, but very good in football. When a team loses their superstar player, as a general rule of thumb, the next game they are good to go with. And we'll talk specifically about the NFL. Green Bay is going to have the element of surprise. Clearly, the odds makers have more than adjusted for the fact that Aaron Rodgers, who I thought was Brett Favre, a little bit of a time warp with little sleep, but they've clearly adjusted for the fact that he's not playing here. And over-adjusted. And remember, I tell you that squares have this self-fulfilling prophecy. I've heard people make statements like, look, if I'm going to lose, I'm not going to lose going with a backup quarterback. Look, sometimes you do have to win ugly. When I was in college, I knew people. I wasn't one of them. But, at 3 a.m., when they leave the frat party, they take, an ugly girl home because sometimes you got to win ugly. Now, I wasn't one of those people, mind you. I'm not a promiscuous person, but I will say in handicapping, sometimes you do got to take that ugly girl home. And Green Bay, I think, is a very good home dog here. Green Bay is my free pick here because they got the element of surprise. Too much adjustment here because of the injury. And look, I've even heard players, when I hear players interviewed, and there's a handicapping nugget there, I put it in the back of my mind, I save it for you. I've actually heard players say that, look, the preparation, they lose some intensity in preparation when the other team loses their star player. So I do think short-term, Green Bay will be a good bet because of the over-adjustment. Also, I love betting consistently inconsistent teams when you've got a big underdog, and a 4.5-point home underdog is big. Remember, home field advantage is worth 3 points. So the odds makers are saying that New Orleans is substantially better. And keep in mind, the Saints, 2 double-digit losses this year, 3 double-digit wins. They've been the ultimate box of chocolates. When you have a box of chocolates laying a ton of points or getting a ton of points, whatever the case is, the underdog is a high percentage play. One of my golden rules of sports handicapping. Remember, odds makers despise uncertainty. Odds makers and squares despise uncertainty. Sharps, they exploit the uncertainty. Undefeated home underdogs of 3.5 or more, that is undefeated at home, with at least 4 wins overall, though just so 5-10 against the spread, 1-6 when getting 5 or more. Devil's advocate, of course, there are going to be extenuating circumstances like today. The Saints have allowed 29 or more points 3 times, yet scored more than 20 only twice. I'm not sold on their defense, okay? I know they've had some good defensive efforts, and then at other times they've looked like the Saints. They've got to show me a lot more that they are improved. So, yeah, Green Bay is definitely a free pick here. The Saints, by the way, 3-2 against the spread, but a plus 6.6 against the spread margin, which puts them third in the league. Favorites of 2.5 or more off of 3 straight wins of 40 or more, just 40 and 61. That would say to fade the Saints. Remember, the NFL, the ultimate regression to the mean sport, with the NBA a close second. But of course, in the NBA, there are actually more opportunities. So, just keep that in mind. So, yeah, as a regression to the mean, another reason, free pick, official free pick from offshoreinsiders.com is to go with the Green Bay Packers. Remember, guys, I love following, and we got a lot more information coming up. Love following the latest line moves. There you go. Make sure you get Joe Duffy's picks at offshoreinsiders.com, but also SBRodds.com. Fantastic. And let me get this out of the way for the time being so you can see it a little bit better. SBR Odds. Never get screwed by a line move. Shop around all those sports books at the top. Thoroughly vetted. Nobody will dispute. SBR, Sportsbook Review, is the ultimate place to go for thoroughly vetted sports books. It is basically the consumer report of sports books, and all those sports books at SBR Odds would definitely recommend. And once the games get underway, it's as good as Red Zone. You can see the scores in progress as well as situations. The Cardinals and the Rams. Rams have gone over 5-1 by an average of 8.1 points per game. Keep in mind, although it's not a 9:30 a.m. Eastern start, this game is in London. Arizona running back Andre Ellington, very doubtful, just 13 carries for 49 yards. Now, a lot of people think London games, because of the jet lag, they're generally pretty good underplays. But usually those London games are early in the morning, so the team's biological clock, they're a little bit off. But this is a traditional starting time according to their biological clock. So keep that in mind. I don't really think there is a huge angle when it comes to London games as far as totals are concerned. I do think that because of the travel, there's some, a certain amount of uncertainty. So another one where, as just a general thumb, I would say betting a big underdog in a London game is a, pretty good percentage play, but nothing that I would bet blindly by any stretch of the imagination. Again, thank all of you who are giving us likes. As I said, our podcast and our videos are going to go on forever, but specifically the Facebook Live. Let us know if you do like these. Please like us, including if you're watching the rebroadcast on YouTube. And that tells us you want more and more of it. Buccaneers and the Bills. Buffalo is going under 4-1 by an average of 9.8 points per game. Second biggest under margin in the NFL. Again, if you're joining us in the middle, you can, watch the rebroadcast from the beginning. It's what some people know as a sweat barometer. It's how much a team does or does not cover, how much a team does, goes over the total or under the total by. The Bucs linebacker Levante Davis is questionable. He's got 19 tackles. Good news for Bills fans, and this is one of the great reasons why this is even better than our normal videos and podcasts, because we give you morning of information. Jordan Matthews will play for the Bills, but with a special glove to protect his injured finger. Of course, he was that big off-season acquisition in that play with the Eagles. A very dangerous player. And I'm a native. I spent the first 21 years of my life, as you can see, I'm a little bit older than 21 years, probably, but in the Philadelphia suburbs, probably still have that Philadelphia accent. So if I said Eagles with an I, hey, sue me. Broncos and the Chargers, the Bolts running back, we already talked about that. Melvin Gordon will play, 99 carries for 356 yards. San Diego wide receiver Keenan Allen will play despite not practicing Friday, 33 receptions for 446 yards. So again, usually Friday practice is the best indication whether or not a guy will play, but it's not gospel. And sometimes that information changes on Sunday morning. So that's why you definitely want to check out our tailgate party Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Time at Sportsbook Review, the Facebook page, or on demand And as I said, if you're watching us on Facebook, you can watch, if you're watching the rebroadcast on YouTube, you can watch us live on Facebook. Sportsbook Review, subscribe to their Facebook page. Road teams that are winless on the road but good overall are 164 and 100. Against the spread, that favors the Broncos. Subscribe to us on Twitter at Offshore Insider, no S at the end of that. Titans and the Browns. Somebody asked me about this. And this is one of those, somebody asked about, I think, the Survivor. I just do not like betting road teams in Survivor pools. Of course, going against the Browns is always a good idea. But the Titans, you're going to have an opportunity to bet them at home. And as I said, money line upsets, they do happen with home underdogs. Titans running back DeMarco Murray and Delanie Walker are probable. Tight end Delanie Walker winless. Underdogs are 186 and 143 against the spread. That would favor the Browns. But yet 97 and 243 straight up. So again, that's as stupid as it gets. Somebody says just pick the team that wins outright. They're going to cover. 97 and 243 straight up. Yet a very good spread bet. However, now, this is the exception, and I frankly considered this as a premium play, but it is not. Teams that have lost at least 21 of their previous 22 games straight up, this means it'll go over at least 2 years. Those teams are only 5 and 18 against the spread. That would say to fade the Browns. Titans are 1 and 11 against the spread off of a win in which they outgained their opponent. Cowboys and the 49ers. San Fran 0 and 12 to the number at home interdivisional contest off of consecutive road games if they lost their most recent game as an underdog. So 0 and 12 against the spread. And again, I think somebody did ask me about the Cowboys in a Survivor. Yeah, the Titans, Jeff DeAngelis. The Titans and the Cowboys. I don't think you're going to win your Survivor pool. You keep betting those road teams. Too much danger there. Now, I realize, how the Survivor works. And I said I haven't done Survivor in years. I just worry about against the spread and straight up. Of course, the deeper you go into the season, at some point you're going to have to bet a road team when you run out of teams. But in this case, no. Falcons and the Patriots Super Bowl rematch. We had a great angle that does say to fade the Super Bowl loser early in the season. It's actually expired as far as the so-called Super Bowl hangover angle that we did have. But one of those kind of intangible angles that I've ridden over the years, when I hear a bunch of players, for example, say that, no, we're not intimidated by playing this opponent. We really think we can win outright when they protest too much. That tells me to actually go against them. When I heard Matt Ryan protesting too much, no, we don't have a Super Bowl hangover. And they won a couple games ugly early in the year, and then they had one blowout. And he's like, see, we're not having a Super Bowl hangover. That told me they're going to be a fade. I don't actually have a premium pick on this game at offshoreinsiders.com, but for the most part, the Super Bowl hangover continues, and the Falcons off a heartbreaking loss. Can they mentally rebound blowing a 17-point lead to Jay bleeping Cutler? So a really tough spot for the Falcons off a devastating loss, then hit the road to play the New England Patriots. The biggest consensus plays, Carolina, Denver, and Tennessee. And I think some people asked me about Carolina, Denver I was asked about Carolina and Tennessee. And again, thank you for the questions. Thank you very much for the likes. That will help us with exposure. For the most part, going against the public is a good idea. I consider those contrarian plays, and more so in the NFL than other sports. Actually, I take it back. All sports contrarian plays work pretty well. Visit me at offshoreinsiders.com, 87 and 45 with all football bets since the preseason. A damn field goal in the California game late made the game go over. Send it in over. They missed the field goal. We have another win there. But look, sometimes you win those close games, sometimes you lose them. Regardless, despite a heartbreaking loss here and there, maybe a lucky win, which we conveniently forget, 87 and 54 since the preseason. We've got a huge card today. 6 NFL, 3 wise guy plays. led by our interconference twosome of the year. We explain inside the analysis why we have two interconference games that are great. Off to a great start in the NBA. We've got an NBA winner as well, 4-1 in the NBA. Visit us at offshoreinsiders.com. Again, if you do like these broadcasts, we're definitely going to continue to do videos and podcasts as far as the Facebook Live. Tell us you want us to do the Facebook Live. Give us a like. That will help us with exposure. Includes if you're watching the YouTube rebroadcast. Join me next Sunday here at Sportsbook Review with another NFL tailgate party. Subscribe to me on Twitter at Offshore Insider and give us some retweets there. If you love these broadcasts, we'll continue to do them. And make sure you always visit offshoreinsiders.com every single day before placing a bet.
Once upon a time in a convenience store, a woman asked, which zero-calorie drink will I like more? The cashier said, I have a thought. Coke Zero Sugar always hits the spot. The taste made her heart fill with laughter, and with her Coke Zero Sugar, she lived happily ever after. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, unbelievably delicious.
No trip to the store is complete without the unbelievably delicious zero-calorie taste of Coke Zero Sugar. Pick some up at 7-Eleven today.